we need to talk about the elephant in the room. And there's going to be people on this dais, whether it's 1, 2, 3, more than likely, who are not going to feel comfortable giving out a proclamation due to beliefs, whether religiously, morally, whatever their values are. And so are we feeling comfortable with 1, 2, possibly people walking off the dais when we have kids sitting in front of us? Is that just kind of what we want to portray as a city council, or do we want to be able to be strong as a unit to be able to give out the proclamations that we can all agree on? Basic thing that it comes down to, Zach, is the fact that I cannot support that. It's because of, and we've spoken about this, and I think everybody on this dais and in this group, because of my religious belief, whether I was whatever religion, I cannot go against that. So I cannot sit here and do that. That's literally going against my religious belief, and that's not fair to me either.
And I wouldn't take that away from you either. I think.
But that's what I'm saying. If we're at the point where we're okay as a council with 1 or 2 members, because it could be up to 2. If it's 3, then it'll change.
Right.
But if it's 1 or 2 members not feeling that they can support that, for whatever reason, we have to be able to, we as individuals have to support each other's rights and what we believe in. But are we okay with having members on this dais stepping off? That's the question, because it's going to happen. I and other people will at some point in time not be able to deliver a proclamation of that kind. And it's not a personal thing. I respect all individuals. I love everybody, but it is because of my religious beliefs that I am literally unable to do that. It's not personal. So I'm now at this point where myself or anybody else who doesn't believe in it is going to have to step off and now feel excluded from something. And I shouldn't have to get off my seat as a council member because it's going against my religion.
But you wouldn't have to get off your seat.
No, you don't understand, Marion. I do. And you have to understand that as a Christian. If we're going to go down this rabbit hole, we've talked about this. I, as a Christian woman, cannot give a proclamation or stand by and do that with children or anybody. And I would expect that everybody and you would respect that.
I do.
That's what I'm saying.
Can I ask real quick?
I do respect that.
Miss Joel, do you have access easily right now to a proclamation? Because here's the thing, whether we're talking about API or Native American Heritage or Black History Month or LGBTQ, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we use basically the exact same wording for each proclamation, only we cut and paste the names of the affiliates.
Correct.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, you are correct. With the inclusionary proclamations, the first whereas clause is always like a historical, factual, where did it come from? And then the balance of the language is always interchangeable with whatever segment of the population and particular student clubs that we're recognizing. So, for example, I do have the Pride Proclamation in front of me as well as the other ones as backup material. The very first sentence of the Pride Proclamation states, whereas Pride Month commemorates the June 1969 uprising at Stonewall in New York City, where members of the LGBTQ community and allies rose to fight discriminatory laws that have been since declared unconstitutional. Then it goes into, whereas the month of Pride is celebrated through various recognitions and activities in support of LGBTQ plus community locally, statewide, nationally, and internationally. And then it says, whereas LGBTQ plus individuals, families, and supporters are an integral part of our fabric of our community and contribute to our overall economy and quality of life. Whereas LGBTQ plus members are represented in the public and private sectors as professionals, business owners, educators, students, volunteers, veterans, and more. Whereas Temecula appreciates the value and dignity of each person and acknowledges the important contributions of the LGBTQ plus community to promote principles of equality, acceptance, and love. Whereas these contributions include those of LGBTQ plus youth of the community and their allies, including the Great Oak High School Gay Straight Alliance, Chaparral High School Gay Straight Alliance, and Temecula Valley High School Pride Club. And whereas it is imperative that young people in our community feel valued, safe, empowered, and supported by their peers and community leaders, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, and other expression. Whereas all are welcome in the city of Temecula to live, work, and play, and every individual and family of any diversity deserves a safe and happy home supported by friends and family. And then now therefore, I fill in the blank. On behalf of the City Council of the City of Temecula, hereby proclaim the month of June 2022 as Pride Month in recognition of and support of LGBTQ plus individuals and families in our community. And then essentially what we do is we can remove LGBTQ plus and put in our Native American members of our community, and then we take out the high school we change the student clubs from the LGBTQ plus student clubs to like the Native American student clubs. So the primary language stays the same, and then we just interchange the segment of the population.
So I guess the reason why I ask that question, and sorry to put everyone through the reading of that, the reason I do is because regardless of what the organization affiliation is, where you take on it is we're recognizing that folks are contributing to the community. They live here. They own businesses here. They're
welcome here.
Are residents here, and that's the extent of the conversation. We're not saying that we go any farther than that. But if all we're doing is looking at this from a perspective of this is a segment of our community that is recognized at a national and a state level, and the city chooses. This is why I say we either do this or we don't do it. Because if these are the proclamations that are issued at a state and national level, and the city has had a history of doing this, either do it or don't. It's not, the question isn't whether we have issue with you stepping off the dais. That is your choice.
Right.
So if we as a council don't want to show unity and support in the community for a segment of the population, then we as individuals have that option to leave. We could do that at any time, as a matter of fact. There's nothing keeping us glued to these chairs. Plenty of items that we could step away for if we find it so objectionable. So you always have that option.
And as far as you stepping off, I do respect you. You have to do what you have to do, or what you feel compelled to do. So, you have every right to do that.
The other thing I know that was brought up at the dais was the fact that there were people who stated that they wanted people to feel respected when they're given that proclamation. Mm-hmm. And we know that there are people in the community who don't align the same, again, values. I believe the other reason why we went to doing something outside, again, this was like hours of work. The reason why we decided to do that was so that way, if these kids do come up, anybody, they can feel welcomed. And that's a big reason, it's coming to me right now, why we had decided to take it off the dais. Right. Was because we wanted to, if Zach, if you wanted to go down to like Cultural Month and deliver this, it can still be on TV, we can still do something. But that was another issue, is of how these individuals were coming and feeling respected. And that was a concern, I believe, from you, Zach, on the dais. So I guess my question is are we as a council wanting to go through that again too, with not having people feel respected? Because if it's supposed to be a proclamation of something of worth to somebody, are they really going to feel worth?
I think they are. I think they'll feel respected and they'll feel worth from the city of Temecula.
I understand that, but that was brought up last 6 months ago, that the children didn't feel worth, like, what's the word I'm looking for? It just wasn't, valued, thank you. And if we want to feel valued as a community, we are going to understand that there's going to be division. But wouldn't it be better to receive something in an environment that is a better environment to receive a proclamation in? So I just wanted to put that out there, because I remember that's something that was brought up at the dais from Zach, and that was also something that was discussed between me and Stu. So it's about how they're feeling when they're there. And so it's not to bring the animosity and the division to the council, but rather to continue to build each other up as a whole in a community, and we don't have to deal with what we've had in the last year.
And I do think that was the main concern and that's where the discussion came commissions or related events is, for instance, Pride Month. If we had a whole bunch of people who was anti-Pride Month show up and basically ruin this certificate for these kids who are showing up to receive it, that's where the discussion came, well, maybe we should present it at an environment where they can feel loved and actually appreciated versus a contentious city council meeting. That's really where it came up, taking it off the dais on something, controversial, if you call that controversial, but it's like, but that was the genesis of this thought.
Yes.
I understand that. Mr. Mayor, if you go to a commission meeting, and trust me, as a member of the Public Traffic Safety Commission, that room was packed many times with people who just weren't real happy. And so there's no guarantee that taking it to a commission, you're not going to get, the same kind of reaction.
We're not taking it to the commission, though. That wasn't the plan.
So you were going to do it at an event or something?
Yes, that's what
instead?
Stu and I both talked on, because there are several events throughout our city that represent the ideologies and the principles of these proclamations.
Again, I think if we present any proclamations at city council meetings, that's making a statement. And then all of a sudden, if we have other proclamations that we only present at an event, and it would be, if it's an event, it would be that own organization's type of celebration or event, right?
Well, not necessarily. We were going to have Randy and the rest of the staff and team dive in and see where we would be able to present these proclamations, whether it be at high schools. I mean, that's a great place too, whether it be at the high schools, whether it be at events. We know that we have, Pachanga has their annual event out here. So there's great areas that we can be able to be part of the community, to have a peaceful environment to ensure that people receive this and not such a hostile environment. And I believe that those were some of the words that were brought up at that last council meeting that we talked about all this, was the hostility. And I understand that. And so how about we be able to respect everyone and be able to do it in a loving environment, so that way we're not bringing more contentiousness to this dais and division. And that's one of the main reasons why we were pushing this. Those children, wherever they stand, at some point, I'm sure, felt uncomfortable. And it's going to be here. I'm not saying with me bringing it at all. I'm just saying people in the community are not going to align with it. So why are we trying to push a subject that is going to be contentious, rather than just get to a point to where we can do it in an environment that they can feel respected?
So Jessica, all due respect, the reason they felt uncomfortable was because of what you said in your video.
Okay.
So you can't establish the situation and then, play to that situation and say because they were disrespected, we need to take it someplace else. When you were the person that really, if anybody's feeling.
Okay, but going back to my beliefs again, now you're stepping on my beliefs and what I
I'm
can
not.
stand here as a council member and say. It's not that I disrespected those children at all. I gave my beliefs of what I stand for. I never went against those children one bit. But we're talking about not what happened then, Marion, but we're talking about the future right now of the city council and what's going to happen. I'm just saying, out of the people that are on this dais, do we want to continuously have a good environment or a negative environment? And
I wish we could always have a good environment, but, it's a public forum. And we do things in public and transparently. And so.
And we are, publicly.
And when the students come for things like that, I think they realize, if anybody knows about controversy in that subject, it's the people who are the object of any of that controversy or the object of the criticism. So I think it's up to the city council to make a statement, or not a statement, but to provide that proclamation as we do all the other organizations. And we cannot be in the feelings business. We cannot deal with how people may feel if somebody else in the audience, which would be a third party, says something negative about that person. If we were going to do that, we'd never do anything in this room, because there's always somebody who's going to say something negative. We'd get nothing done. So I just know that we can be as professional and courteous to every different organization And if you have strong feelings about something, you're free to say that. And then I think it's a way that we say things. You can say things in a respectful way that might be, that aren't directed personally at any individual. But I don't want the chance that somebody may say something that hurts somebody else's feelings to drive this city. We just can't do it. And it is, we've already voted, and you voted too, to approve that list of recipients, or what those proclamations will be. And if anybody disagrees, then you have the right to disagree. But do not take that honor, and that's what we mean it as. We mean it as an honor. Do not take that honor away from those different groups just because you're afraid of something somebody might say. It's their business to decide if their feelings are going to be hurt. And if they don't want to come to a public forum because they're afraid somebody's going to say something, then they also have that right. But we still acknowledge the culture, the group, their participation as members of the city, their work, how they work, what they contribute to the city. We still mean that in a positive way. And even if nobody were here to accept a proclamation, and that's happened several times, we do it publicly to acknowledge that publicly. And we're voicing the city's position, at least 3 council members. And when you have a majority of 3, things move forward. You're certainly not going to agree with everything. And then how we individually deal with that, if we have objections, that's what you have to decide. Or if I object, I have to decide how I'm going to do that. And if you're afraid of hurting somebody's feelings, then you have total control about the way that you discuss that. If you want to explain your reasons, you have control of that. And you can be sensitive and you can say, it's just against my religious beliefs. You don't have to say anything else, other than that. So I will not change my motion. I think that we need to continue to issue proclamations at council meetings, and they can be listed on the consent calendar.